Lee Yongshang, a faculty from the Political Science and International Relationship of the Korea University. And the title of his talk is changed slightly. The title is called The City Redevelopment and Neighboring. How the third place replace good old day. Okay, let's welcome me.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. My name is Lee Yun-sang, as I was presenting. I am a bachelor student in this school, Korean University. So my major is political science, but I also am majoring in sociology. So the last semester I took a class in sociology, and this is the paper and the research I conducted for the project. It was very hard for me to conduct this alone, but listening to your presentation, you guys are PhD students, you are professors, so I am very honored to be here and present my studies. And so yeah, I will make it interesting. So I chose my topic as city redevelopment. Actually, in Korea, I think city redevelopment is a very big issue because it is connected to many of the residents in Seoul, which is a very highly populated city. And most of the development happened in the 70s and 80s when the Korea was undergoing rapid economic development. So the growth rate was very high, and many people were coming to the urban area. So the more and more residential buildings were needed, and lots of buildings were constructed 30, 40 years ago. So reconstruction is needed at this point. But it is in many cases, negative implication is related with the redevelopment because it has a lot to do with the socioeconomic gap between the residents in the area. When the new buildings are built, those who cannot afford to get into the apartments, which is considered to be a fancy residential building, some of them cannot afford to get into where they used to live for like 30, 40 years, for 30 and 40 years. And it is related with the loss of memory, where the older and kinder neighborhood gets lost, and the distinctive characteristic is standardized because of the new construction. So my research question is, does the good memory or the characterization of the community gets lost with the redevelopment or not? So I thought about it, and I thought the memory is a very hard concept to measure, and it is very hard to conceptualize, put into scientific inquiry, because it's, as you guys know, it's an intangible concept, and it is very hard to digitalize and put into a data. So I thought about how I can capture the people's behaviors in the neighborhood. So I went to the area several times and just looked at people's behavior and how people live in this area. So this is actually near our school, and I lived here for more than a year and a half, and I move around the neighborhood a little bit, and I saw that people interact with each other in a certain way. So I thought maybe it would be very fun to quantify how people's memory is related with the physical space. So I bring two concepts in this research. So first is neighboring, and the second is the third place. Neighboring is, I think, is not such a big idea. It means you get along with your people, your neighbors who lives nearby, and we can provide help, or we can get together with your neighbor. You can go to restaurants, or we can play together with your kids. And the one thing that I think is important in Korean society is that neighboring is being diminished because of the loss of the community. like in the past, in the 70s and 80s, when the economic growth did not happen so rapidly, I hear from my parents and grandparents that there used to be a very friendly neighborhood in where they were living in the countryside. But nowadays in the city, we do not really have that kind of atmosphere around because everyone is living in the apartments where you do not really know your neighbors that much. So I thought it is really important to capture this concept, neighboring, in the context of the city and where the redevelopment is happening. So the third place is what I choose to analyze in this research. So it means the place where you are for the so there's a first and second place. First place is your home where you spend most of your time with your family mostly, and second place is your workplace, your school, your job. So, but the third place is the places where you go to outside of those responsibilities or social hierarchies. So you are free from your role as an employee or a family member. You can hang out with your friends, go to cafe or go to stadiums for a ball game, and you can just have fun. So you cherish those time you spend in third place, mostly better than your time at your work, I think. Yeah. So my theory is that, as I have been telling, as city redevelopment proceeds, more population lives in apartments. You don't know your neighbors that much, so the neighboring decreases, and the overall satisfaction of the informal public life, which happens in the third place, is also decreases. And it creates less attachment with the people, with the neighborhood, with the place you live in. So that is the theory. And I try to focus on the households in apartments and the population to see if that is true or not. So the data is the population, the overall change of the population in the Dongdaemun-gu area, which is very near to this school, and the ratio of households in apartments. So we will get to that. So this is the population change of the Dong districts in the Dongdaemun-gu from 2010 to 2020. So as you can see, the highlighted ones are the ones where they undergone the rapid increase in the households in the apartments. So as you can see, they have gone from 50% to 80%, from 25 to 45. More and more people are living in apartments now because of the redevelopment. And this is the visualized data of the Dongdaemun-gu area. So as you can see, the more red means more people living in the apartments. So overall, 56% to 62% was a change of the whole population in Dongdaemun-gu. And also these four dongs are selected as the focus of my research. So this is the population change of the four dongs. From this, I could learn that there is two distinctive groups of these four dongs. So these two here has undergone a rapid decrease right after the Improvement Act was enacted in. So it was decided that these areas would undergone the redevelopment, and these two is Dapsimli-dong and Jeonnong-dong. So they are close together, and these two are close together. So I separate them into two groups. And let's see what this means. So this is the map of the Dongdaemun-gu, and I chose barbershop as the example of the third place for this analysis. So this is the map of the historically existing barbershops in Seoul, Dongdaemun-gu. So we can see there are three groups. And the most highlighted group, the most salient cluster is in Cheongnyang-li-dong, which is a very big commercial center and where the train station is. So I think I should exclude that from the research because it would be biased if I take into consideration. And these two groups are so my main focus of analysis. And so the reason why I choose barbershop is that it is there are many examples of third places, but I thought it would be very fun to see the increase and change of the numbers of barbershops and related with the people's people's perception of the neighborhood and their neighboring in those areas. So this is the group 1's barbershop change. So from 1960, when the survey was started, there has been ups and downs in the numbers of barbershops. And as you can see, these red lines are when the authorization happened, so that's when the construction began. And right before the construction, there was the huge spike in the number of barbershops, which means there was a population increase also, but also there was a expectation, people's expectation that the neighborhood would be developed, so there will be more economic opportunities to be made in this area, and also more people come, so more barbershops needed. But after that, it is decreased because people initially have to move from their older neighborhood to live somewhere else while the development is happening and come back after when the construction is over. So we can see that there was an increase after some time from the authorization, at the point of authorization, and after that it decreased a little bit again, and then it is sustained at that level. Next one is the number of barbershops in Group 2. Group 2, so we will get to the difference between Group 1 and 2, but for now, let's just focus on the change of numbers. There, so when we compare it from the Group 1, Group 1's authorization happened in 2008 and 2014, whereas in Group 2, it is a bit later than that, 2014 and 2019, and some of the projects are still happening. So it was higher at the in the past, but then it gradually just dropped. So it seems like that the number of barbershops did not get affected by the fact that the neighborhood was being redeveloped. So when we put this into analysis, I learned that the pattern of neighboring measured in the number of barbershops followed the general pattern of the population change. At least that was the case in the Group 1, and which means that even though the familiar form of living vanished, the third place continued to exist and it did not disappear entirely. So when we look at the graph in the Group 1 again, we can see that after the we need to compare with the population actually. So the population decreased at first in around 2010, and then it got increased again around 2015, 2020. That was when the development happened to some degree and people came back. So with the population coming back, we can see the spike. As I told you earlier, we see those spikes back in this number of barbershops. So if we think that barbershop is a third place, and if you don't like your new barbers or new neighborhood, then you move away from those older barbershops, and you don't go to your neighborhood to get your haircut, or you just move far away or find a new place. But that was not the case in Group 1, where the authorization plan happened earlier. But in Group 2, maybe we can say different words. So from this, we can say that neighboring continued to exist, and it returned with the population and started to exist in a different form. So as I was saying, in the Group 2, the most salient difference between Group 1 and 2 was that, as I learned from the research, that the people in the Group 1 was generally more satisfied with the plan, so they were really up for it, and they were agreeing to the government's plans. But the Group 2 was there was corruption issues. The plans was not going as smoothly as in Group 1. So in Group 2, the barbershops change does not really capture the neighboring in those areas. So I think it is very important. At the initial phase, we learned that G1 population was more attached to their neighborhoods, so they were really into and they really liked the redevelopment plan. But in G2, where people were more, where we can say people were less attached to the neighborhood, although it is kind of not clear to say that for sure, we do know that in G1, the regeneration of the past neighboring happened. So, but we also have to, I do admit that we have to consider that the barbershop's function as a third place might have diminished or altered, because after the redevelopment, the nature of the population must have changed. The new people came coming into the older neighborhood to live in their just new habitat. So I think people just get, pretty simply, people just go to barbershops to get a haircut, not to mingle with the barber or with your friends or have a good time. They just go to their barbershops to get a haircut. But I don't think that is really the case, because, as I told you, the two area of focus was not the commercial center, it was the area for residential places. So I think we can still say that barbershops do provide people with the neighboring function. And future analysis needed as the redevelopment plan is still ongoing. And after the COVID issue, we know there has been lots of changes in the commercial area. So and the social implication always comes with time lag. So I do hope I can continue my research and study this urban planning and urbanism studies. And yeah, so my final remark is that if changes and losses are not avoidable, we have to make it for the better. In this case, we have to make a better neighborhood. As you can see here, people putting up like signs that you do not make it for us, you do just for like money, we cannot let this happen. So like they're disagreeing to the plans. And this is the case for some of the people, this is not for some of the people. So I think it is very important to put into consideration the neighboring when we are making our plans for better neighborhood, and when we redevelop our neighborhood, which is so precious. So yeah, that is my what I prepared. Thank you for listening.
For this very interesting talk. So any questions for Flo?
Yes.
So thank you for your wonderful suggestion and presentation. So I'm interested in and so sympathy to your research, I think. And so I don't know if you are interested in so promoting the development, but so if you reducing, so any ideas of the method or policy of the redevelopment, right?
Yeah, that is very good question. So I think so before I conducted this research, I thought redevelopment was bad because it just get rid of your older memory and older neighborhood where you grew up. But then I got to think that after looking at the data, that maybe redevelopment is not that all bad. It is actually improvement of the neighborhood and your living condition. So I think it is very important to make a good redevelopment plans, and that is a very hard question, as you know. So I think one aspect that can be considered is the how people live in their neighborhood. So not just as a place where you sleep or where you just secure yourself, but we have to also consider the neighborhood where you can go to parks, you can walk around, and you are safe in your neighborhood. Yeah, I think those are important aspects. Also, it is very important in terms of economics because, as you know, the housing prices is so high, but then it is always related with other social economic factors. So I think it's a very important job for politicians to make good policies. Thank you. Yeah.
Any further questions? Just a little feedback. So I think barbershop is a very interesting target to study, and I consider that a center of exchange gossip.
Yeah, true.
So that's why barbershop in academic thing I went a lot, and I get all the gossip about academic thing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Right, so I forgot to mention that this idea of research actually came from this documentary film. So this documentary film is from 2009, and there's like this foreigners who live in Seoul thinking like, oh, I'm so sad that this redevelopment is happening. That they are, as foreigners, they were so close to their neighbors who are local Korean, like harmonies, grandmas, but then because of the redevelopment, they have to lose their habitat and go forced to evict it. So that was the start of my research, and in that, the barber shop is presented as one of the examples of the neighborhoods. Yeah. So that was my story. Any other questions or any feedback remarks? Yes, please.
That would be my curiosity. That is not really a question.
Mhm.
In my understanding, the barber shop that you have chosen, there was different in many regions of the cases. As I came from Europe,
Mhm.
and sometimes the barber shop they use for the two sex. Sometimes that has the male and female. They can settle there for their hairdo, and sometimes only for the men's sex. And in the case of Taiwan and barbershop, perhaps only for the male, and the salon for the female. But they don't know what is your case that in Korea.
Oh, that's a good question. Actually, there is a term for the male barbershops and female barbershops, I think. So there, if you call it ibarso, which is basically a barbershop, then it is mostly for males. There are at times there are like signs in front of your store that it is for men's haircut and it is for like women's haircut. But yeah, so roughly put, the data itself is including all those shops that is registered as the barbershop, so including females and males. I feel very sorry for not going to any of the barbershops of this region by myself. I just came from the hinder side that I should have been to at least one of those barbershops. But yes, so that may be one of my limitations of the study, but yeah, so that was a good point. Any other remarks or questions? Yeah, then thank you for your listening. It has been such a good opportunity for me. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And actually, we still have a few minutes. Any comment from the previous speaker before we all have for lunch?